Here's another brilliant video from that wonderful institution of higher learning that is totally not fake, Prager University.
That there are really 4 big bangs that have to be accounted for, not just one. I had never really even considered that before. I mean, we're all familiar with the first Big Bang, right? It's usually the answer given to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It's the idea that there was nothing, it popped, and boom, there's something. I mean, that time, matter, and space all came into existence in some great cosmological flash about 16 billion years ago. There was no gradual development, no transitional forms, just a binary flip. A metaphysical, now you don't see it, and now you do.
Nope. That's not what happened. First of all, where do you get the number 16 billion years ago? I've never heard that one before. The consensus is 13.8 billion and some older estimates are around 15 billion, but I have no idea where the number 16 billion comes from. Secondly, a common apologist mistake is the reification of nothing as though nothing is an actual state of affairs. They think that the Big Bang was an event in which a change occurred from a state of nothingness to a state of somethingness. This is very stupid because nothingness is not a state. There never was any state of nothingness which changed to something. Since this change never occurred, we don't need to infer that Yahweh exists in order to account for it. The Big Bang is simply a temporal boundary. When scientists say that it was preceded by nothing, they mean it wasn't preceded by anything. Apologists seem to think that the phrase preceded by nothing means that there is this thing called nothing that existed prior to the Big Bang. This is very silly.
But the first theoretical cosmological Big Bang, well, it only yields matter and energy. It doesn't even begin to address the origin of life. So, how do you get life from non-life? How did abiogenesis occur? I mean, the notion that something can come from nothing. Where's the evidence?
What fucking dictionary defines the word abiogenesis as life from nothing? The first definition that you find on Google says abiogenesis is the process by which a living organism arises naturally from non-living matter. I think this asshole knows that no dictionary defines abiogenesis the way he does. I think this is more than just stupidity. I think this is a deliberate straw man.
Well, you're going to need another something from nothing leap of faith, some kind of biological second Big Bang. For all the mind-blowing advancements we've made in physics, biology, and chemistry in just the past 100 years, we're still no closer to making it happen. We don't have a clue. The closer we look, the wider the chasm.
Not true. Check out AronRa's video on abiogenesis. I'll put a link in the description. Over the last few decades, there have been major advancements in our understanding of this issue.
I mean, sure, we've learned a lot about how to manipulate life forms, how to add and subtract DNA material, even map the human genome, but we have no idea how to literally create life from dead stuff. Now look, at this point, we still only have physics, chemistry, and some basic biology, or matter, energy, and simple life, if you will, but we still don't have a way to account for the great diversity of life forms. I mean, the huge differences between bacteria, plants, and animals.
What the fuck are you talking about? Your last point is at least somewhat right, in that we don't have as definitive an answer to how life began as we do to many other scientific questions, but the diversity of life is very thoroughly explained by evolution.
Nor do we have a way to account for the differences between man and animal. We still don't have an anthropology at this point. So we're going to need a kind of anthropological third Big Bang to account for all this.
What differences do you mean specifically? Which of the differences between human animals and other animals do you think can only be explained by a god?
A final Big Bang is going to be required to explain how a mechanistic animal brain can become a self-reflective human mind. Even the lowest life forms have brains and central nervous systems.
What the fuck? No, the simplest organisms do not have brains and central nervous systems. Single-celled organisms don't have either of those things. If you don't believe that bacteria don't have brains, then clearly you don't even fucking have one. Why would you put so much time and money into these fancy animations to illustrate your points, but obviously not spend any time actually researching them?
I mean, how does something like that become the mind of a Michelangelo, a Shakespeare, a Beethoven? Come on, animals don't do art, and they don't appreciate beauty.
Of course they don't. They don't have human brains. You talk like there is no material difference between the brains of humans and the brains of other species.
But the problem is even more basic than that. How do you account for free will and introspection, let alone man's pressing existential drive to ask why?
Well, I don't believe in free will, so I see no need to explain that, but I don't see why introspection and curiosity can't be material computational processes.
Well, we're going to need some kind of psychological fourth Big Bang to account for man's moral and aesthetic sense. I mean, his search for meaning, significance, and purpose, and of course, his appreciation for the true, the good, and the beautiful.
And how does God explain any of these things? Let's say the apologists are right and human beings are possessed by these spooky woo-woo ghosts, and it is these ghosts who think thoughts and feel feelings. The question remains, how? Why is it more mysterious for matter to do these things than it is for some ethereal, immaterial entity to do them? If you ask me, the idea of immaterial souls is even more mysterious because nobody seems to be able to define what these entities even are or how they seemingly interact with matter.